You are not unlucky. You are not cursed. You are not bad at life. You are actively participating in the destruction of your own progress. Every missed opportunity, every relationship that almost worked, every time you got close and then pulled away. You tell yourself it was stress, timing, bad luck, other people, but if you're honest, deeply honest, you'll notice the pattern. You were there at the exact moment things could have changed, and something inside you quietly made sure they didn't. Why? Why do you keep sabotaging the very life you say you want? Hold that question. Don't answer it yet. On the surface, self-sabotage looks simple. You procrastinate because you're afraid of failure. You push people away because you fear rejection. You quit too early because you doubt yourself. This is the visible explanation, and it's not wrong. Your nervous system is wired for safety, not fulfillment. When something feels uncertain, it interprets that uncertainty as danger, so it pulls you back into the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. You stay in the job you dislike because it's predictable. You avoid the conversation because conflict feels unsafe. You delay the dream because trying might expose your limits. The brain prefers a known discomfort over an unknown possibility. And that makes sense. It makes you feel understood. But this isn't where it gets interesting. Because if self-sabotage were only about fear of failure, success would fix it. And it doesn't. You've had small wins before, moments where things were going well. And what happened? You hesitated. You minimized your achievement. You created drama. You found a reason to slow down, which means the fear isn't just about failing. It might be about becoming someone you don't recognize. But here's the part nobody tells you. Self-sabotage is often an act of loyalty. Loyalty to an identity you built when you were younger. An identity formed in environments where success felt dangerous, where being visible invited criticism, where outperforming others caused tension, where expressing your needs led to withdrawal. So you adapted. You learned who you had to be to belong. Maybe you became the low-maintenance one, the funny one, the independent one, the underachiever who doesn't really care. That identity protected you, and now, years later, your external goals are trying to outgrow it, but your internal system is still guarding it. Carl Jung wrote about the persona, the mask we develop to function in society. It helps us survive. It earns approval. It reduces conflict. But the persona has a shadow. The shadow holds the parts of you that didn't feel safe to express. Ambition, neediness, anger, desire, power. When you move toward a bigger life, you activate those shadow elements, and that feels threatening. Not because growth is dangerous, but because growth exposes the parts of you that were once rejected. So your mind intervenes, not to hurt you, to protect you. Self-sabotage is not incompetence, it's identity protection. And here's where the second layer unfolds. Your nervous system doesn't measure success by achievement. It measures success by emotional regulation. If achievement increases anxiety, visibility, vulnerability, your system flags it as unsafe. Imagine you start doing well. You get noticed. People expect more from you. You become visible. Visibility means evaluation. Evaluation means potential rejection. Rejection, at some point in your life, meant pain. So your system connects success with threat. And what does it do with threats? It neutralizes them. You procrastinate. You overthink. You create subtle chaos. You unconsciously align your outcomes with your old self-concept, because your self-concept must remain consistent. This is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. You don't behave in alignment with your goals. You behave in alignment with who you believe you are. If, at a deep level, you believe, I'm not the kind of person who succeeds. I'm difficult to love. I always mess things up. I'm only valuable when I struggle. then your behavior will bend reality to confirm it, not consciously, systematically. And this is where projection enters. When you sabotage relationships, you might tell yourself the other person wasn't right. When you sabotage opportunities, you might say it wasn't aligned. But sometimes what you're actually protecting is the story you have about yourself. Because if the relationship worked, you'd have to update your belief that you're unlovable. If the opportunity succeeded, you'd have to release the identity of being overlooked, and that can feel destabilizing. You've spent years organizing your personality around a certain narrative. Changing it means psychological disorientation, and the mind hates disorientation, so it chooses familiarity, even if familiarity feels like stagnation. Now, let's raise the stakes. If this pattern continues, what does it create? Isolation, not dramatic isolation, subtle isolation. You remain slightly outside your own life, watching others commit, watching others risk, watching others grow. You tell yourself you're not ready, but readiness never arrives. Instead, your world becomes smaller. You start misinterpreting neutral events as confirmation of your inadequacy. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A small mistake feels like proof. A challenge feels like exposure. Your emotional range narrows. You become hyper-aware of potential threats and under-aware of possibility. And slowly, almost invisibly, you disconnect from authenticity. Because authenticity requires vulnerability. It requires saying, I want this. I need this. I'm afraid. Self-sabotage protects you from that exposure, but it also protects you from intimacy, from expansion, from depth. You don't fail dramatically. You underlive quietly. That is the real cost. And this is the second loop we opened earlier. The question wasn't just, why do you sabotage? It was, what are you protecting? Because if sabotage is protection, then attacking yourself will not solve it. Awareness might. Not motivational awareness, structural awareness. Look at your patterns without judgment and ask, what identity am I loyal to? What version of myself feels safe but small? What emotion am I trying to avoid when I pull back? If I succeeded fully, who would I have to stop being? If someone loved me deeply, what belief would collapse? If I stopped sabotaging, what responsibility would appear? These questions are uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort signals proximity to truth. You don't need to suddenly become disciplined, or fearless, or radically confident. You need to notice the moment before the sabotage, that small internal shift, the tightening in the chest, the rationalization, the subtle delay. That is the doorway. Not to shame, to choice. When you see the pattern clearly, it loses its invisibility. And invisibility is its greatest weapon. You are not broken. You are structured. Your behaviors are not random explosions of weakness. They are organized strategies built by a younger version of you who was trying to survive. Respect that version, but don't let it run your future. You are allowed to outgrow identities that once protected you. You are allowed to become unfamiliar to yourself. Growth feels unstable because it is. It rearranges your internal architecture, but instability is not danger. It is expansion. Remember the opening question. Why do you keep sabotaging your life? Maybe you don't. Maybe you keep protecting a version of yourself that no longer needs protection. And once you see that, the pattern changes. Not because you force it, but because you understand it. Your mind is not random. It is structured. And once you see the structure, you can redesign it